Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Now, the figures are startling. Almost 250,000 young people lost their jobs in the first 3 months of 2023. This means a total 4.9 million people are unemployed. This is 46.5% of people aged between 15 and 34. But it's not all bad news. While government fails to provide for unemployed youth, the private sector is doing its part. For example, Nedbank's Youth Employment Service Program has already placed over 7,000 youths within the bank and its implementation partners. Let's find out more from Executive Head of RBB Marketing at the bank, Buli Ndlovu. Buli, thank you very much for your time here on eNCA and welcome. This is Youth Day, and of course, as a despondent country, because of all the negative that we're faced with on a daily basis, this is something that we should talk about to at least celebrate that something has been done. Just tell me a little bit more about this program. When did it start? How can people get in if there's still an opportunity?
Thank you so much for having me. As you were opening, the stats are staggering, right? So in the first 3 months of 2023, 250,000 young people lost their jobs, and I just saw the clip that's coming up, I think in the segment after this, where you're talking about, is there something even worth celebrating, right? Because the stats are staggering, and it's almost like the youth are in a dire state. But Nedbank's commitment really to enable the potential of our youth does go beyond, paying lip service or shouting really loud on Youth Day, because we have continuously led in this space. You mentioned the example around, us being the biggest supporter of the Youth Employment Services Program, and we've already placed over 7,000 youth at the bank and across our partners. In addition, we have created a movement which we are exceptionally excited about. We call it YouthX by Nedbank, and it really seeks to empower the youth, right, by providing them with access to resources, to mentorship, to inspiration, really with the aim of unlocking their potential. We're now in our 3rd year, and YouthX as a platform really aims to help alleviate some of the challenges that the youth of South Africa are facing. Things from unemployment to the lack of access to funding their businesses, to mentorship, right? And so this movement really does empower the youth with the knowledge and the tools and the inspiration that they need in order to kickstart their lives. And I mean, if we talk about, at the bank, we talk about us being money experts who do good. Our YouthX program really is aimed at tackling these issues that the youth is facing.
Now, Buli, tell me, how far and wide does this program reach? Normally people in areas such as any of the metros in Gauteng and any of the metros in Cape Town in particular would be able to, get these opportunities much easier than those in rural areas. So how far and wide does the program go?
I mean, we are a bank for all, right? And so we are aware that, access is often, to your point, goes to the metropolitan areas. But what we are doing is actually we want to touch as many youth as possible across the length and breadth of this country. And we do it in many ways. So the YES program I mentioned is one of the ways. YouthX is another one. But we're also very big on driving financial education, right? And accelerating financial inclusion, which really is imperative from a social upliftment perspective, driving economic growth and prosperity, propelling the youth. And so given where our bank is across the nation, we are extremely intentional about reaching all parts. And if we can reach every single young person in South Africa, then that's certainly what we're going to do. It's certainly not limited to the metros. So you shouldn't feel disadvantaged just because you don't live in Joburg or Cape Town or Durban.
Tell me about the importance of a public-private partnership, especially looking at the fact that in South Africa we've seen how some of the partnerships in the public sector and the private sector have worked, where you find corruption actually loomed quite a lot, and it was a big a bigger partner in the fact that there was a corruptee and a corruptor, and the private sector had the money to bribe some ministers, DDGs, etc., to get some of the projects done, etc. But tell me about the importance of this partnership, but a clean partnership that will benefit the people and not just certain individuals.
Absolutely. I think it's absolutely critical, right, that the private sector plays a key role, especially when you're talking around youth development. And certainly, if we as a country believe that the youth is our future, then it is incumbent upon us to play that role. But we can't do it on our own. It has to be absolutely in line and in partnership with the government as well as communities, right? So it's this tripartite almost alliance where we all have to join forces. And to your point, it has to be a clean partnership. Corruption benefits no one. And in fact, when you think about who is disadvantaged the most, it does then become the youth, who's then the most vulnerable in terms of the segments in our society, as we can see in the gloomy statistics that we chatted about a little bit earlier. So the partnership, absolutely critical. It cannot be a role for private sector to do on their own. We can't do the heavy lifting on our own. We do need government to play a role, but similarly, we need communities to also join forces. It's the only way when there's this tripartite alliance between government, private sector, and communities that will be able to win against these challenges that we are facing in our country.
And I like that you've called it the tripartite alliance. We know that in a South African context, when we say tripartite alliance, we mean it very politically. And what you just mentioned should be the
Right.
true tripartite alliance. Thank you very much for speaking to us, Buli Ndlovu, the executive head of RBB marketing at Nedbank.